a team of scientists successfully achieved 53% reverse aging in old rats, with blood plasma from young rats in an astounding leap forward for the scientific erstwhile controversial field of aging. Young rat plasma successfully reversed his aging from 54% in old rats, say scientists. A reverse aging procedure where young rat plasma was given to aged rats successfully turned back 6 different genetic codes and epigenetic clocks of old rats, improved organ functions, and cleared sentient cells effectively reverse aging in the rats by 54%. According to a recent study published in a preprint biology server, related new anti-aging clinical trial charges $1 million to participate. And reversing this process with the blood plasma and has beneficial effects on various mice organs. It wasn't known whether young plasma could rejuvenate cells and tissues at the epigenetic level, according to the peripheral site of the preprint site. The average rejuvenation across 4 tissues was 54%. In other words, the treatment more than halved the epigenetic age, wrote the researchers in recent preprint studies. The discovery is significant that the author doesn't believe that the results in sharing more and more data, sequencing the rats' genomes, understanding the human body, and trickling it to ensure they didn't mix the rats up. Harvard professor David Sinclair, one of the world's leading longevity researchers, wrote a Twitter thread that explains how the preprint study claims to have reversed the age of rats by 54% and shared notes from the conversation he had with the preprint study first author, Professor Stephen Horvath. So finally, the result in the follow-up tweet, Sinclair said, "The result is so literally, my father died, incredible, that even he, the author, Professor Steve Horvath, didn't believe it at first. I suggest the rats mixed up in the assured brilliant check with their genomes right. So the rats weren't mixed up in the writings. The recently controversial reverse aging field leaps forward." Sinclair noted how the source of this operation from the commercial cut and the company called Nugenics, which sounds like eugenics, has made decisions and very few tests, compounding by the name of the blood plasma fiction. Elixir doesn't inspire most confidence, but the astounding results demanded analytics and analysis, said Sinclair. Why would this be a big deal? Chemicals called methyls, which are added and subtracted in checkings through video conferences. This DNA methylethanol pattern can also serve as a biological clock with a 5%, less than 5% error. If you smoke or overheat, the clock tricks after 4 o'clock. Why would this be a big deal? Chemicals called methyls, which are added, subtracted. They are not a big deal. The big deal are the three and Sinclair's Twitter threads, which continue like this. Saying the aging field in interesting field studies and embracing the idea, J changes the methyl patterns and other regulations of the part of the aging process, and that can be reversed. He went on 6 years ago, a lifetime in the aging field of study is more suggested than the aging of the reverse wasn't enough. Incredible human question. At the coronavirus crisis change, how the public thinks is susceptible to infection. Findings that are significant discoveries of the future and how reversing aging for humans is truly priceless. So it goes on to say that a new aging process has been revealed as a reversing scientific experiment to reverse aging in the process of 3 years in just 8 weeks. How does this work? Reversing of the biological clock, of course. So you're using cookies, and you're susceptible to accepting all kinds of cookies and reprogramming the approach. And it seems to be changing the culture of the mice and the retinal nerve damage, which has been restoring the vision through the cell, reprogramming credits Kulai, Shen, Bloomberg, and Getty. Researchers have a restored vision in old mice. It's a major landmark, says Juan Carlos Isinea Belmonte, a developmental biologist at South Institute of Biological Studies in La Jolla, California, who has not been involved in the study himself. These results clearly show that the tissue regeneration in mammals can't be enhanced. But researchers, they also caution us that the work so far with the CEO has been carried out to make this happen only in mice. And it remains, I can tell you for sure, to be seen. Most people do not see this revolution as occurring, and it's happening so quickly that it remains to be seen whether the approach will translate to people and to other tissues and organs and are ravaged by time. Visionary approaches, such as aging defects and affects the body in a myriad ways and forms. Among them, removing and altering chemical groups such as methyls or DNA, and these epigenetic changes that accumulate, propose tracking the changes, and calibrates the molecular clock to measure biological age and assessment that it takes as a biological system count, wear and tear, and can differ from chronological age. And this has been everywhere. It's obvious, and we see a lot of money in this. It's improving the quality of life, and the hospital groups will have to insure the companies. The owners of the insurance companies, they insure themselves. That has raised the possibility that the epigenetic changes contribute to the effects of aging and voluntarily show themselves as a discount. We set questions. Epigenetic changes, drivers for aging. Can you reset the epitome? Says David Sinclair, the geneticist Harvard Medical School. in Boston, Massachusetts, and co-author of Nature study, Can You Reverse This Clock? Can you provide the option to delete all his data that a particular company has and shares data with everyone? There is a suggestion that the approach could work in 2016, Belmonte and colleagues report. The effects of expressing 4 genes in mice genetically engineered and more rapidly triggering the norm gens of behavior. In that way is encouraging the features that make for the capital system encouragement for the companies that are doing great work with that data. Behaving like a skin cell and reverting to a stem cell in his mind and leaving an inside tracker to see what's true in that way. Belmonte teams turned them away and switched them off again in the hope of reverting cells in younger states without erasing their identities in blockchains. I want this public the results was mice and aged more slowly and had a pattern of epigenetic marks indicative of younger animals.